The 2021 Arnold Classic, celebrated this September in Columbus, Ohio, should be an easy win for the Conqueror, William Bonak. And we're back, guys. Welcome to another edition of This Week in Bodybuilding.com, presented by TitanMedicalCenter.com. Remember, TitanMedicalCenter.com is your go-to source for all your anti-aging, medical weight loss, glutathione, the new ECA Plus stack, and the great therapies like Nectar of the Gods, which will boost your immune system, Titan Complete, and so much more. So guys, today I want to talk about something that I actually wrote for IronMagazine.com, one of my articles this week, and it's titled, William Bonak Should Win the 2021 Arnold Classic. Now, why do I say that? Well, the Arnold put out their competitor list, and while it's not the deepest lineup, it is still a very competitive lineup. It's got some, I would say some pretty up-and-coming talent with, Ian Valere, who's doing real well. You've also got Akim Williams, who got top 6 at last year's Mr. Olympia. You got Cedric McMillan, who won an Arnold Classic that really I would say was probably the weakest lineup Arnold Classic. Really, that competition that he won there, he took first. The late Dallas McCarver took second, and Michael Lockett was in that show, but it wasn't an exceptionally deep lineup. Dallas was also not at his best, but and that year that Cedric won the Arnold, he went to the Olympia. Normally, the Arnold Classic champion is a shoo-in for top 5. He was lucky to get in that top 10. I believe he might have snagged that 10th place spot. So again, not the best Cedric we'd seen, and again, but good enough in that year to win the Arnold Classic. So it's interesting that William, an Arnold Classic champion, is facing off against Cedric, another Arnold Classic champion. So from a marketing standpoint, on paper at least, it could be an interesting showdown. But to me, that's apples and oranges. I don't think Cedric is in William's zip code. But now we also got Sergio Oliva, who had to pull out of Chicago, which other outlets have said he pulled out. He really didn't actually pull out. He was burned. Other people ran with the story, and so he did pull out. But when you say it like that, it seems almost as if he had an opportunity to withdraw on his own terms, and that's just not the case. Sergio is a fantastic bodybuilder. I think that he brings a lot of quality, a lot of good muscle, excellent poser. I'm not talking about any of his outspokenness, because that has nothing to do with anything, but I'm also outspoken, but I can totally relate. There's a lot of talent. Max Charles, a guy that I have always thought very highly of, a real blue-collar bodybuilder who has not received the benefit of special invites or preferential treatment, like Big Ramy, who is the only competitor at the 2020 Mr. Olympia not to have qualified, and he got the special invite and he won the show. So again, I love Big Ramy, but Big Ramy is kind of like the guy that has been given the keys to the kingdom. Max Charles is the kind of guy that has had to fight tooth and nail for everything he's got. So I respect Max a lot more than I respect Ramy at this point in time based on that criteria. But, he is a very, very dangerous competitor, and he's the kind of guy you don't want to overlook. Then you got, of course, Justin Rodriguez, who's been making a lot of noise. Look, there's a lot of talent there. But going back to William Bonak, though, my guy, he was like this close to winning the Mr. Olympia that Brandon won. He won an Arnold Classic. The Arnold Classic that he lost to Brandon, again, by a hair. This is a guy who truly is an elite bodybuilder. He is a living legend. And last year, one of the biggest knocks on Williams is that he doesn't have enough size. Well, last year he brought a lot of size, and he got a top 5 placing, which in my opinion should have been a little higher. Of course, we had, Phil Heath coming back, and, he looked good. He did not look his best, but he looked good. He snagged the 3rd spot. You had Brandon, who got 2nd, Ramy, who got 1st. Ramy shouldn't have been there to begin with, but he got 1st. But I thought, William brought it, and William has also been able to, move on after leaving a great coach in Neil Hill. and his physique didn't skip a beat, and he's just as good as he's ever been and getting better and better. But last year's Mr. Olympia, the promotions largely ignored William Bonak and Ruli Winkler. Why? Because they had this for Olympia strategy, game plan. You're going to have Dexter Jackson. You're going to have Brandon Curry. You're going to have Phil Heath. And they were hoping they were going to have Flex Lewis. Now, Flex couldn't do it. And so now they were down to 3. And so even still, though, I believe that when Flex couldn't do the show, that's when they brought Big Ramy in. But guys like Ruli, guys like William, they just didn't get any love because, while their physiques are amazing and they pose amazing and the fans adore them, they're not controversial. You see what I'm saying? They don't talk trash. They're not the ones to, be doing the rounds on all the little video shows online, And so as a result of that, as a result of them not being previous Olympia winners, they just didn't fit into the promotional equation. And so, not that Big Ramy is like that, but Big Ramy, honestly, he's a fan favorite, you know what I mean? And he's just a mass monster. He's a really good guy. I've interviewed him before, but I just don't think that William Bonak got the respect that he deserved. I mean, this is a man who has paid his dues, top honors, huge titles, known around the world, dominated 212, and then goes to dominate the Open, and he can't even get a poster. I had to do a poster for him, and I was happy to do it. But you guys know my reach is very limited compared to that of, the Olympia, of course, or the Arnold Classic, or big events like that. So, a lot of people reposted it, which was really nice, but still, that's a drop in the bucket compared to the promotion he should have received, and he didn't. So in my article for Iron Magazine, I said, well, how insane would it be if William went to Columbus in September of this year, won that show, skipped the Olympia, and then went back to Columbus in March, regular time for the 2022 Arnold, and won that. So imagine if William were to have 2 Arnold Classic titles before next year's Mr. Olympia. I think that would be amazing. Now, why would he skip the Olympia? In my article, I say, though, it's unlikely that he would. It might be a way for him to win big in September, win big in March of next year, and just remind the talking heads and the pundits and the haters, hey, William Bonak is here. William Bonak is killing it. William Bonak is a competitor that you should be talking about. And so that might be a strategy. But more than likely, he's not going to skip the Olympia because that's not a show that you skip. But, I'm thinking in his mind, he's got to be wondering, why the hell was I ignored last year? You know what I mean? What do I have to do to get back on the radar? And while, guys like William, guys like Ruli, guys that have, reached the mountaintop, they don't really crave accolades in social media quite as much as, say, an up-and-coming Ivy Pro or a rookie. It's not like that. But I would also dissent when they say they don't care either, because everybody wants to be recognized by their peers. And, you got RX Muscle, you got MD, you got Generation Iron, you got Behind the Pump, you got Strength Addicts, and so Evolution of Bodybuilding. I mean, there's a lot of sites. I'd be here all day talking about sites. And to say that, and then on YouTube, you got Nick Strength and Power, you got More Plates, More Dates, you got Desktop Bodybuilding. This is recognition that these elite level athletes need. Whether they want to admit it or not, they deserve it, they should get it. William deserved it, didn't get it. Really deserved it, didn't get it. Maybe 2021 will be different. I hope to God it is. And but in my opinion, I think that, with all due respect to all the amazing competitors that have been invited, because again, the Arnold is an invitational, it's not a qualifying event. You don't qualify for it, you get invited to it. So, at least the Arnold people see William Bonak as an elite among elites. But with all due respect to all the amazing athletes, I think William Bonak should win the 2021 Arnold Classic, and I don't really have any doubts about it. I think the real question is, second through, I don't know how many people they have, 12? Second through 12th is going to be the bigger question. I don't see anybody there. The only person, in my opinion, if he was 100%, and I'm not just saying it because of their placings 5, 6 last year, respectively, would be Akim Williams, because Akim Williams has really come a long way. And I'm surprised that he's doing the Arnold, given that he was top 6 last year. I would have thought he would want to peak only once. for the Olympia this year and maybe move up a spot or two. But, you know, the Arnold Classic is the second most important bodybuilding show. Even if it doesn't qualify you for this year's Mr. Olympia, it is still the second most important bodybuilding show. It is Arnold's namesake. It's a ton of money. It's a ton of bragging rights. So I can totally understand why he would want to do the show. But at the same time, you know, it being literally, what, like a month or even less than a month away from the Olympia, where you really have to peak, where that ain't the second, that is the Super Bowl, that is the best show, that is the show that determines the best male and female in each respective division to be the uncontested best on this rock called Earth for one calendar year. That is high risk as it gets. So surprised to see two top 6 Olympia competitors taking that, you know, rolling that dice, you know, in Columbus, Ohio 1 month prior to the Mr. Olympia. But if anyone can do it, it's William Bonak. Akim, we have to see, because Akim has only been top 6 once, and while, you know, he's really, you know, evolved and his physique has progressed, he's also not at the level of William Bonak. So in my opinion, William Bonak should win the 2021 Arnold Classic in Columbus, Ohio. What do you have to say? Also, be sure to check out my article at ironmagazine.com, which I will put in the description. Till next week, this is Christian Duke. This Week in Bodybuilding, brought to you courtesy of TitanMedicalCenter.com. Go to TitanMedicalCenter.com for Titan Complete, Nectar of the Gods, Glutathione, the ECA Plus Stack, TRT, and so much more.